From Nicolas Cage buying castles and dinosaur skulls to Gary Coleman discovering his fortune had vanished. These actors once had millions and lost almost everything. Lawsuits, gambling, luxury spending, and shocking financial disasters destroyed careers and fortunes alike. Here are the actors who lost their fortunes in truly shocking ways. Nicolas Cage went from owning castles and rare collectibles to scrambling to recover from massive financial problems. Cage spent huge amounts on luxury real estate, including castles in Europe, plus a rare Superman comic worth $150,000 and a dinosaur skull that later got seized after it was discovered to be stolen. Then the IRS hit him with a $6.3 million tax lien, and the financial collapse tied to his real estate investments wiped out much of what he had earned. Instead of filing for bankruptcy, Cage pushed himself back to work non-stop, filming around 20 movies in just a few years to try and rebuild everything he had lost. Burt Reynolds made millions during his Hollywood peak, then watched huge chunks of it disappear through failed businesses, luxury spending, and years of legal battles. Reynolds poured money into expensive properties, 150 horses, a private jet, a helicopter, and even invested $20 million into 2 restaurant chains that ultimately failed. At the same time, his highly publicized divorce from Lonnie Anderson dragged through the courts for years, adding millions more in legal fees and additional court disputes over unpaid child support. Eventually, CBS demanded repayment of a $3.7 million loan, and Reynolds finally filed for bankruptcy after reportedly resisting the idea for years because of how he viewed bankruptcy personally. Kim Basinger's financial collapse started with a movie she never even appeared in. Basinger backed out of the lead role in Boxing Helena, triggering a massive lawsuit that dragged through the courts for years. At one point, she was ordered to pay more than $8 million in damages and attorney's fees, which pushed her into filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy because the amount was reportedly far beyond her net worth. At the same time, another risky investment was falling apart, a $20 million purchase of an entire Georgia town that was supposed to become a movie and tourism project. During the legal battle, Basinger started selling parts of the property to manage the financial pressure. Debbie Reynolds lost millions chasing a dream that turned into a financial disaster. Reynolds had spent years collecting valuable Hollywood memorabilia and costumes, so when her third husband suggested buying a failed Las Vegas hotel, she saw it as the perfect place to showcase the collection. The problem was the hotel became a money pit almost immediately. After purchasing it, Reynolds reportedly spent millions more fixing it up, taking loans, selling jewelry, and borrowing against other properties just to keep it alive. Then she poured even more money into the struggling business, which continued losing millions every year, until Reynolds eventually filed for bankruptcy after failing to sell the hotel. Gary Busey filed for bankruptcy hoping for a fresh start, but one massive problem refused to disappear. The IRS, Busey's bankruptcy documents, showed he owed more than $500,000 while reportedly having less than $50,000 in assets left. Although part of his debt was discharged during the bankruptcy process, most of what he owed came from unpaid taxes, and those debts stayed with him. After the case was finished, Busey still owed almost as much money as before because the government wanted over $450,000 in back taxes. The actor's financial collapse came years after the motorcycle accident that dramatically changed his life and public image. Stephen Baldwin's financial problems got so bad that he stopped paying the mortgage on his own house after failing to sell it. Baldwin had taken out 2 mortgages on the New York property, but when he filed for bankruptcy, the numbers didn't add up. He owed about $1.2 million, while the house itself was reportedly worth less than that. On top of the mortgage debt, the IRS wanted around $1 million in unpaid taxes, along with thousands more in credit card debt. Even after years of legal trouble, the problems continued, and eventually, a judge ordered the home to be auctioned off while Baldwin was told to leave the property. Sinbad thought one more movie would solve everything, but the comeback never came, and the debt kept exploding. The comedian and actor filed for bankruptcy twice, eventually revealing he owed nearly $11 million to creditors, including more than $8 million in back taxes to the IRS. Sinbad said much of his money disappeared because he kept funding his own business ventures and paying the salaries of people working for his company while expecting future projects to cover the costs later. Instead, the bills kept growing larger and larger over time. During the bankruptcy process, Sinbad was even required to complete a personal financial management course as part of the proceedings. Mickey Rooney made millions during Hollywood's golden age, then lost huge amounts of it through gambling and financial problems that followed him for decades. Rooney admitted that while performing in Las Vegas during the 1950s and 60s, he could earn $20,000 in a single week and then lose twice that amount gambling at casinos. By the early 1960s, he filed for bankruptcy while reportedly owing large debts, including alimony payments, and having almost no assets left. The financial troubles continued for years, leading to another bankruptcy tied to unpaid IRS taxes. Even in his 80s, Rooney was still performing live because he said he was broke. Gary Coleman earned millions as one of television's biggest child stars, but when he finally gained access to his trust fund at 18, almost all of the money was gone. Coleman expected the account to contain around $18 million from his years on different strokes, but there was reportedly less than $250,000 left. He later sued his parents and representative and won, but only recovered a fraction of what he had earned. The financial problems never fully disappeared, and Coleman eventually worked regular jobs, including as a security guard, before filing for bankruptcy. Years later, his will included a request for a wake attended only by people who truly cared about him personally. David Cassidy became one of the biggest teen idols of the 1970s, but decades later he was drowning in debt and forced to auction off his own belongings. Cassidy claimed studios made hundreds of millions from merchandise tied to the Partridge Family, while he only received a tiny fraction of that money. Years later, despite selling an estimated 30 million records during his career, major spending on luxury properties created serious financial pressure. Cassidy reportedly spent more than $2 million buying and renovating a Florida mansion while also purchasing property in the Bahamas. Bankruptcy records later showed he was spending far more each month than he was earning, forcing him to sell his home and possessions to cover debts. Zsa Zsa Gabor's fortune took multiple devastating hits, including one caused by a celebrity feud that ended in a massive court judgment. Gabor already suffered major financial losses when California property values dropped during the recession, and later, her lawyer revealed she had reportedly lost millions through Bernie Madoff. But another disaster came after years of public tension with actress Elka Summer. After Gabor made harsh comments about Summer in an interview, the situation escalated into a lawsuit that ended with a $3.3 million libel judgment against Gabor and her husband. The financial pressure became so severe that Gabor filed for bankruptcy the following year.